Welcome to another episode of an Anarchist Conversation. Today is July 8th, and what's going on in the world today? Well, a lot of police activity, basically. We've got the Philando Castile shooting, Alton Sterling, Dylan Mobile. Have many of you heard about this one? So, some of the followers of my Facebook page have probably heard about that one. I did post a little bit about it. So Philando Castile, he's murdered by a cop in his car. His girlfriend's there in the car, and she films it. Cop claims he told the guy not to reach for anything. Meanwhile, the girlfriend's saying that the officer had asked him to get out his ID, and that's what he was doing at the time. So we've got some opposing stories going on there, but at the end of the day, Philando Castile basically got killed because a cop pulled him over because his taillight was out. That's what happened. A cop pulled him over because his taillight was out. He reached for something in his pocket, and the cop was nervous, so the cop shot him. He was armed, said he was armed, but also said, I have a license to carry. Apparently, he had a concealed carry permit. A couple other things about the guy. He wasn't like an overachiever from what I've read, but he didn't have a criminal record. He's been working since I think they said like 16 or 18 or something. He's been working since a decently young age. You know, there's really no thug card to be played here, if you will. Alton Sterling, I haven't looked quite as deeply into that one, but you're looking at a similar thing. Man gets pulled over for, something stupid. See you later. Dylan Noble, same thing. This time it's a white guy, which is what makes my head spin. We constantly hear about how, it's racism, cops are killing black people, blah, blah, blah. Look, people are getting killed by cops. That's the issue. Let's not make this about race. I do find it interesting, though, that the media seems to pump the stories where black people get shot by cops and killed, but not white people. The media is part of the game to divide and conquer us. So you see that going on, you got to wonder, stop and think. They want me to make this a race issue. They want us to be divided over race instead of coming together and going after the real target. On a good note, though, in Minnesota, over 200 plus people supposedly came together and surrounded the governor's mansion in response to, I believe it was the Philando Castile shooting. Great. This is a lot better than what we saw going on in Ferguson. Let's burn Rite Aid. Let's loot CVS. Like, they had nothing to do with it. I understand the governor is not personally directly responsible for this cop shooting him, but at the same time, the laws and the system are. The governor is not so much a symbol, but, call him a higher up, call him an elite, whatever. He is part of it. So he is an actual target. I'm not saying go kill the guy or do anything to him. I'm just saying at least they're addressing the target. They're going to the target. They're saying, hey, we got a problem. What can you do? I'm not sure he can do too much. The system's already in place. What's he going to do? Overturn over like 200 years of law, basically. But at least we're not going after CVS, who clearly has nothing to do with police brutality and so on. So that is some interesting, positive light news coming out of that. Dallas is a whole. I don't even really know where to begin with that. But one of the articles I read, one of the first things it brought to light was, the shooter said that he wanted to kill as many white cops as possible. He wanted to kill white people. He was concerned about the Black Lives Matter movement. So again, we see this divide and conquer thing coming out of this story, and it's just, that's not the issue. Whether this guy said that or didn't, whether that's how he thought or didn't, it's unfortunate, because at the end of the day, the real problem is at the end of every law is a gun and possibly death. That is where the problem stems from. How to get away from that? That's probably something we can all talk about at another time, maybe on the Facebook page or something. But until we do find a way to get back to a, shall we say, natural kind of law, maybe more of a common law, a law that isn't about, it's hard to say it isn't about governing. It is kind of, in a sense, like, I even sometimes say that a family could be considered a system of governance. I'm not sure there will ever be a world where there's no systems of governance, though government might be something different. Can we get away from that, where at the end of every law is a gun waiting to say, well, you either follow this law or get fined, and if you don't pay the fine, then you go to jail, and if you don't go to jail or resist going to jail, we can use a gun against you and force you to go to jail, and blah blah blah, and if still then you resist, we can shoot you. And there it is. At the end of every law is a gun. And sure, I've posted a couple articles on the Facebook page that have to do with that. There was one lawyer that I believe he's a professor even, and don't remember his name or where he was teaching, but basically he said that when he's teaching future lawyers and stuff about the law, he would basically tell them, don't use the law against someone, don't prosecute someone, don't basically use a law in general unless you're willing to kill for that law, basically. And that's kind of amazing, especially considering the guy seemed to be of a statist mind frame. He even said in the article, he's like, I'm not he wasn't arguing for there to be no law, and by no law we'd be referring to statist law, of course. There are natural laws you can never get rid of. There's no abolishing or getting rid of natural laws. They're natural, they're here forever. But other laws, man-made laws, statist laws, he was saying that he wasn't arguing for them to be abolished or gotten rid of or anything like that. But at the same time, he's aware of the fact that at the end of law is death, which I found quite incredible. I can't quite wrap my brain around how he still advocates for man-made statist law. I don't know why he would do that after realizing what is at the end of statist law. It seems kind of simple to me. Maybe it isn't to everyone. I don't know. Anyway, another link I shared just today, actually, I think. It was a video made by World Alternative Media, and I want to try to reach out to them and see if I can get one of them on here to interview and talk about how they became what they are, what they do, why they do it, blah, blah, blah. But, check them out. They basically do economic analysis, kind of watch the finances and just talk about it. They're not really going to give you financial advice, but at the same time, like, you kind of read between the lines. Obviously, these guys are rather big supporters of gold and silver in physical form. So telling you that right there might give you a bit of a hint as to where they might lean ideologically and things like that. But anyway, they basically just do economic analysis and things. I think it's some good information. I think they've got their stuff together pretty good. So it would certainly be interesting to get them on the show and maybe interview one of them, maybe both of them, and just see where it goes. Have a good time with it. Anyway, the last part of this show, I wanted to talk about a book. I've done a couple episodes where I've mentioned some bands that I thought were kind of cool, and maybe a few anarchists could dig for different reasons, whatever they may be. But one of the books I read not too long ago, but somewhat recent, was No Treason, The Constitution of No Authority. That's by Lysander Spooner. And it was a pretty good book to especially help get my brain kind of thinking in different terms than it was before. He is a little redundant. He kind of says things a different way over and over again. What I'm getting at is the book. Sometimes you can see what he's about to say before he says it because he kind of already said it. But basically, he beats a piece of fruit to death, which is fine. He makes his point solid. So this is the book right here. Sorry, moving it in and out of the camera. Not too crazy. It's pretty thin. If you want to read it, wording isn't too, or type isn't too big either. But one of the bigger, best points I think that he makes throughout the book is contract law, and basically, is the Constitution a contract? Within the same book, he basically destroys the social contract, the invisible social contract. Most people who support such a thing will mock a free marketer because of the invisible hand theory, but will then cite an invisible contract, the social contract, to then say that we owe them this or we owe them that, blah, blah, blah. So basically, the simplest way that Lysander Spooner does that in his book, No Treason, The Constitution of No Authority. Oh, by the way, before I go any further, if you are watching and would like to get involved with the show, please call 732-685-4448. Once again, 732-685-4448. I'll probably be on here for a few more minutes if you want to get involved. I'm just going to wrap up talking about the book, and then we'll do this again soon. Anyway, where's that? Yeah, one of his best points basically is contract law in general. So, if you make a contract with someone and it becomes broken, what happens? You go to court. Okay. How does the court determine whether or not a legally binding contract was made and such and such? So, basically he explains how all parties have to be aware of the contract. All parties have to sign the contract. There's got to be witnesses. There's so much that goes into contract law to make a contract legally binding in this system of governance, or whatever you want to call it. And he basically takes that and says, where is any of that with the supposed social contract? How is it that how is it that the system requires so much proof and so much evidence, proof, what have you, of the existence of a contract before they will defend it, protect it? How is it that so much is required between, me and another person, or between two businesses, but nothing is required to prove that there's a contract between a person and their government? It just is. The government just says that it's going to be this way, and that's the way it's going to be. It's basically, if lawyers were to use the same logic they used in courtrooms to dispute contract law, if they used the same logic and reasoning and approaches, they would absolutely not be able to defend a social contract. So, if you're interested and haven't read it, you should check out Constitution of No Authority, No Treason by Lysander Spooner. It's a pretty easy read, aside from the redundancy. I think it'll work out the brain muscles a good bit, get you involved. But I think it's also a good one to maybe buy friends or family or, whoever, because it's not a big book. It's not super thick. It's not really complex. Maybe I'll talk about The Law by Friedrich Bastiat in a later episode. But like that one, really, you got to read it at least twice, maybe even more. At least for me, that's the way it was, because I think it was originally written in French. So it was translated, and yeah, sometimes in the translation, you're reading through a sentence and it just, something didn't quite jive. It didn't quite, make sense in English or something. But yeah, it's not really like that in the Constitution, No Authority. I would give it at least 4 out of 5 stars, I think. So that's my review of No Treason, The Constitution of No Authority. A lot going on. A lot going on in the world right now with the cop issue, and I want to remind people that as much as it is an issue we should focus on and talk about, it's not the root. Cops and police brutality and whatever other issues come along with the badges, corruption, it's all a symptom of the state basically being a monopoly on the initiation of the use of force within a given geographic area. And basically throughout history, it's been proven that that always turns into an institution of violence. Basically, that means it violates the rights of the people within that given geographic area while claiming to protect those same rights, by the way. So, when you get to that point, you understand that and you realize that it's just a symptom. We can talk about it and not seem like just cop haters. A lot of time people will jump to that. But if you come out and say things like that instead of just being like, oh, cops suck or cops are bad, blah, 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 I get it. But, if we take the right approach, maybe we can get through to people and show them that we're not just trying to hate on cops because we like to do illegal things or cops do illegal things or whatever. We're actually pointing out that the entire system is flawed from the foundation. And if people don't want to accept that and continue to throw their haterade at you, oh well. Anyway, this has been a fun episode. I'm going to try to get some interviews lined up. I've been emailing people. I want to, bring a little more action into the podcast. It's been fun so far, of course, but I want to keep building and making it a little better for you guys, a little bit more material. So hope you've enjoyed it. We will be on YouTube, which we are right now. I think someone might be watching. We're live. We're on YouTube, Libsyn. The podcast will be up there, iTunes. Check us out on our Facebook page. Trying to keep building that and spreading the word so we can get some more listeners and hopefully get some callers, really. I'd really appreciate it if anyone wanted to call in. Even if you just want to, screw around for a minute or so and just say hi, that's fine. I will probably be back Sunday shooting for 11 a.m. So if you want to call in, write it down, set yourself an alarm, 11 a.m. I'll try to keep the podcast going for a decent amount of time so you guys have plenty of time to call in and join the show, and it's not such a short window. I'm approaching 19 minutes right here, so this has been the longest podcast so far. Not that it matters, but at the same time, why not? Anyway, it's been great. See you guys later.